Welcome to Middle School Mama, your destination for all things education. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I recently wrote a blog post about implementing Genius Hour in my co taught elementary level classroom. And I've gotten a lot of questions about number one, how do you implement Genius Hour in a elementary classroom? It can be very challenging. And number two, how do you do it when you have students who have special needs? Well, when I did Genius Hour, I was working with a group of co taught fourth graders, and about 40% of my classroom was made up of students who had special needs. So I was already working with a lower age level of student, and then we had some special needs to contend with on top of that. So I'm here to just give you some tips and tricks, a quick overview of how to implement Genius Hour in your classroom if you are working at the elementary level, working with students who have special needs, or a combination of both of those things. First things first, as always, be prepared to scaffold and accommodate as much as necessary. Yes, Genius Hour is about educational freedom and students being allowed to explore their own interests and ideas, but you need to be there to support your students. So it can be very easy for us as educators to think, oh, this is Genius Hour. It is an independent project. I am simply going to hand them the information and let them run with it. Even if you have a classroom full of typically developing elementary age students, you are going to need to provide some additional support. A lot of modeling, a lot of this is what your project might look like. Don't say should because they can all look a little bit different, but just a lot of modeling of potential project ideas, potential topics, and you're definitely going to have to walk them through the research process because depending on the age of your students, this may be a new skill for them. And Genius Hour is a great way to learn about research and discovery and how to cite sources, but be prepared to provide that extra support should they need it. Second piece of advice would be to have all of your Genius Hour supplies, research, anything that you are using in one central location. And that is for typically developing students as well as students who may have special needs. I really think that at this age level, you need to take a little bit of that responsibility on as the teacher. Something as simple as just a basic file folder, nothing fancy. Put it in a basket. Everyone has their own file folder. All of the file folders are in a basket. They are in one place. I was teaching 4 sections of Genius Hour at one time. So I just had a different section for each class. They all knew where their file folders were, and everything was kept in one central location. I would also highly recommend teaching Genius Hour as a unit rather than a supplement or a fun Friday type of activity. A lot of older classrooms or even gifted and talented classrooms like to use Genius Hour as their Friday project, where you are working on one thing all through the week, and then an hour on Friday, you get to work on a project of your own. And that is how Genius Hour started. It was you had 1 hour a week where you got to pour all of your time, energy, passion into something that you are interested about. However, for younger students, for students who may have some other challenges, it can be really confusing. I would highly, highly recommend that you keep Genius Hour together as a unit and teach it at least several times a week. That's my personal preference. Whatever works for your classroom, that's great. I did Genius Hour 1 hour per day, 5 days a week, for a complete 9 week session. It worked really well because we knew what we were focused on, we knew what we were working toward. Again, you know your students. So, whatever works for them is going to work for your classroom. Just be prepared that it may be more challenging to switch gears than it might be in an upper level, typically developing classroom. Last piece of advice is something that I wish I had figured out earlier in the process myself. If at all possible, use an interactive notebook with your students while they work through the Genius Hour research process. That way, they can keep all of their brainstorming ideas, all of their research, their different topic ideas, anything that you guys work through in the classroom, they can keep it all together in one interactive notebook. In my classroom, I tried to work around the interactive notebook by using strictly the set of file folders, and it worked okay. However, for some students, I was constantly going back in, reorganizing, fixing papers, paper clipping them together, trying to keep everything in some kind of order for them so that they could work through their research as independently as possible. So, after all was said and done, I went back and I designed my own interactive notebook. If you are interested in checking that out, I have it listed on my Teachers Pay Teacher store. So go ahead and click on the link below, and that will take you straight to my store. Above all else, please do not get discouraged when trying to implement Genius Hour in your elementary level and or special education classroom. It is really an important and exciting project, and I am so glad that I did it in my own classroom. I still have students talk to me about it today. Um, it is just something that you need to really witness to see the educational power behind it. So please don't get discouraged. Try again. I hope that these tips and tricks have been helpful. And as always, if you need anything from me, please let me know in the comments. You can always reach me at middleschoolmama.com and head on over to my Teachers Pay Teachers store. Goodbye, everybody.